The cart squeaked as I pushed it down the hallway of the 32nd floor. A small sound, barely noticeable, but in the hushed elegance of the Empress Hotel, it felt like a scream. I made a mental note to ask maintenance for oil, knowing they'd ignore the request like they'd ignored the last 12. Room 3217. 3218, 3219. I checked my assignment sheet, though I'd memorized it hours ago. Penthouse suite at the end of the hall. A last-minute addition to my rounds, scrawled in Mrs. Okonkwo's hurried handwriting with a note that made my stomach clench. VIP guest. Absolute discretion. Do not disturb if occupied. The Empress catered to the wealthy and powerful, people who expected invisible service and paid handsomely for it. In my 18 months here, I cleaned rooms belonging to movie stars, politicians, and at least one person I was pretty sure was on the FBI's most wanted list. I'd learned to keep my eyes down and my mouth shut. It was nearly 2 p.m. The guests should be out by now. They always were, these important people with their important meetings and important lives. I knocked 3 times, called out housekeeping in my practice-neutral tone, and waited, silenced. I knocked again. Waited. Nothing. The key card beeped green, and I pushed open the door to the most expensive suite in the hotel. The penthouse was massive, bigger than the apartment I shared with my sister by a factor of 10. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Central Park, the trees just beginning to show the first hints of spring green. The furniture was all clean lines and neutral colors, expensive in that understated way that whispered money rather than shouting it. I pulled my card inside and began my routine. Bathroom first, always. Fresh towels, new toiletries, mirrors polished to a shine. Then the bedroom, making the king-sized bed with military precision, checking the closet for laundry that needed sending out. The closet was where I found the first sign that this guest was different. Suits, yes. Dozens of them, in blacks and charcoals and navy blues, all bearing labels I recognized from the fashion magazines Lily left around our apartment. But behind them, almost hidden, a leather duffel bag sat on the floor. Partially unzipped. I should have ignored it. Should have closed the closet door and moved on to dusting. That's what a smart person would have done. A person who wanted to keep their job. A person who understood that curiosity killed more than cats in places like this, but the bag was in my way. I needed to move it to vacuum properly. That was the excuse I told myself as my fingers found the zipper and pulled cash. Stacks of it, bound with paper bands, more money than I'd ever seen in my life. My breath caught, but I kept looking, some morbid fascination overriding every survival instinct I possessed. Beneath the cash, a velvet pouch. Heavy. I knew what it was before I opened it. Knew and opened it anyway. The gun was beautiful in a terrible way. Black metal gleaming under the closet light, deadly elegant. I didn't know much about weapons, but I knew enough to recognize this wasn't something bought at a sporting goods store. This was something designed for one purpose only. I should put it back. Should close the bag, finish my cleaning, and never speak of this again. My hands were shaking as I tried to return the gun to its pouch. That's when I heard it, the soft click of the suite's main door closing. I froze, still crouched in the closet, the gun in my trembling hands. Footsteps approached, measured and unhurried. A man's gait, confident and heavy. Maybe I could hide. Maybe he'd go to the bathroom and I could slip out. Maybe. The closet door swung open. He was tall. That was my first coherent thought, my brain latching onto the least threatening detail it could find. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a face that looked carved from ice. High cheekbones, a sharp jaw, pale blonde hair cut close to his skull. And eyes, God, his eyes, they were the color of a frozen lake, blue so light it was almost colorless. Those eyes dropped to the gun in my hands, then lifted to my face. "Well," he said, his voice a low rumble accented with something Eastern European. "Russian, maybe. This is unfortunate." I opened my mouth to explain, to apologize, to beg, but nothing came out. My throat had closed up entirely, my body understanding the danger even as my mind struggled to process it. He moved aside from the closet doorway, a gesture that might have seemed courteous in any other context. "Come out." Slowly. My legs obeyed him before my brain could object. I rose on shaking knees. the gun still clutched in my white-knuckled grip because I couldn't figure out how to put it down without looking like I was about to use it. "The gun," he said calmly. "On the bed." Carefully. I walked to the bed and set the weapon down with exaggerated slowness, then stepped back, hands raised like I'd seen people do in movies. He watched me with those unnerving pale eyes, his expression revealing nothing. "I wasn't stealing," I blurted out. "I'm housekeeping. I was just cleaning and the bag was in the way and I didn't mean to. Your name." The interruption cut through my rambling like a blade. "Maya. Maya Chen. I work here. You can check with the front desk. I have ID. Maya Chen." He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting the syllables. Then he moved, crossing to the suite's main door with 3 long strides, the lock engaged with a sound that echoed through my bones. "Now," he said, turning back to face me, "we have a problem." I should have screamed. Should have run for the balcony, the bathroom, anywhere. But I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Could only stand there, paralyzed, as he walked back toward me with the unhurried confidence of a predator who knew his prey had nowhere to go. "Please." The word came out as a whisper. "I won't tell anyone. I didn't see anything. I'll quit my job if you want. Just please my sister, she needs me. She's only 17. She has no one else." Something flickered in his eyes. There and gone so quickly I almost missed it. "Sit down." He gestured to a chair near the window. "We're going to talk." I sat because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. He remained standing, a deliberate choice that kept him towering over me, kept the power dynamic crystal clear. "You've seen my face. You've touched my gun. You know this room is registered under a false name." He listed my sins with clinical precision. "Do you understand what that means?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I did. "Means you are now a liability. In my line of work, liabilities are dealt with efficiently and permanently." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But I find myself curious about something." "What?" "You mentioned a sister. You said she needs you." He tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was an equation he couldn't quite solve. "Most people, when they beg for their lives, they think of themselves. Their own survival. You thought of her first. I didn't know how to respond, so I said nothing." "Tell me about her." "This sister." The request was so unexpected that I answered without thinking. "Lily. She's 17. A senior in high school. She wants to go to college to study medicine. She's brilliant, smarter than I'll ever be." My voice cracked. "Our parents died when she was 12. I've been raising her since then. Working 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Everything I do for her. And if you were to disappear, what would happen to her?" Question was a knife between my ribs. "She'd have no one. The state would take her, put her in foster care for the year until she turns 18. She'd lose everything. Her school, her friends, her chance at a future." Silence stretched between us. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm, oblivious to the life hanging in the balance in this penthouse suite. "What's your schedule?" he finally asked. "What?" "Your work schedule. When are you expected back?" I have 2 more rooms after this. Then I'm done for the day. My shift ends at 6. He glanced at his watch, a gesture so mundane it felt surreal. "It's now 2:47. That gives us approximately 3 hours before anyone notices your absence." 3 hours for what? "For me to decide what to do with you." He moved to the minibar, poured 2 glasses of water, and set one on the table beside me. "Drink. You look like you're about to faint." I took the glass with trembling hands, too shocked to question whether it might be drugged or poisoned. The water was cool and clean, and it helped steady my racing heart. "I'm going to make some calls," he continued. "You're going to stay exactly where you are. If you try to run, to scream, to signal anyone in any way, I will know. And the consequences will be immediate. Do you understand? Yes. Good. He pulled a phone from his pocket and moved to the far side of the room, speaking in rapid Russian that I couldn't begin to understand as I sat in my chair by the window, looking out at Central Park, and wondered if I would ever see my sister again. The minutes crawled by. His phone calls continued, punctuated by long silences during which he paced or stared at something on his laptop. I tried to stay invisible, to shrink into the expensive upholstery and disappear, but I couldn't stop my mind from racing. Who was this man? What had I stumbled into? And why, despite every logical reason to be terrified, did some part of me sense that he hadn't decided to kill me yet? After what felt like hours but was probably 45 minutes, he returned to stand before me. "I've verified your identity," he said. "Maya Chen, age 24, employed by the Empress Hotel for 18 months. Currently enrolled part-time at Hunter College nursing program. Legal guardian of Lily Chen, age 17, student at Brooklyn Technical High School." He paused. "You have no criminal record. No known associations with law enforcement or rival organizations. By all accounts, you are exactly what you claim to be. An ordinary woman in an extraordinary situation. Then you'll let me go?" "That depends." He pulled a chair to face mine and sat, bringing himself to eye level for the first time. This close, I could see the faint lines around his eyes, the almost invisible scar along his jawline. Signs of age and violence that somehow made him more human. "On whether you can be trusted." "Can. I swear I can. I'll never say a word about any of this. Words are easy. Everyone promises silence when their life is at stake." His gaze held mine, searching for something. But fear fades. Time passes. Guilt or greed or simple carelessness loosens tongues. I've seen it happen too many times to take promises on faith. "Then what do you want from me?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his words surprised me. "Your phone." "You have one?" "In my cart. We're not allowed to carry them during shifts." "Get it." I rose slowly, crossed to my cleaning cart on shaking legs, and retrieved the cheap smartphone from the pocket of my supply bag. He took it from me, examined it briefly, then did something to the settings before handing it back. "I've installed an application. It allows me to monitor your location and communications." His eyes met mine, daring me to object. "For the next 30 days, you will go about your life exactly as normal. You will speak to no one about what you've seen. At the end of that period, if I'm satisfied you pose no threat, the monitoring ends and you never see me again. And if you're not satisfied, then we'll have another conversation. One you won't walk away from." It wasn't much of a choice. It wasn't really a choice at all. "Okay," I said. 30 days. 30 days. He rose, towering over me once more. "Finish cleaning the room. Leave everything exactly as you found it. Then go about your shift as if nothing happened." I nodded, moving toward my card on autopilot. "Maya." I turned back. He hadn't moved, but something in his expression had shifted. Softened, maybe, though that seemed impossible for a face so cold. "Your sister, Lily." He paused. "Make sure she stays in school. Gets her education. Opportunities like that shouldn't be wasted." Before I could respond, he gathered his laptop and phone and disappeared into the suite's second bedroom, closing the door behind him. I cleaned the room in a daze, my hands moving through familiar motions while my mind struggled to process what had just happened. Somehow, impossibly, I was still alive. Still free, more or less. Still able to return to my sister tonight and pretend everything was normal. So I pushed my cart out of the penthouse. I glanced back one last time. The bedroom door remained closed. But I could feel him there, watching through the walls or the cameras or whatever surveillance he had access to. 30 days, I told myself. 30 days, and this would all be over. I had no idea how wrong I was. The next week passed in a blur of forced normalcy. I cleaned rooms, attended classes, helped Lily with her college applications, cooked dinner, paid bills, pretended that my life hadn't been irrevocably altered by a chance encounter with a gun in a velvet pouch, but I felt him everywhere. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every stranger who glanced my way became a potential spy. Every shadow in the hallway of our apartment building transformed into a threat. The weight of his surveillance pressed down on me like a physical force, making it hard to breathe. Lily noticed, of course. My sister was too smart to miss the dark circles under my eyes, the way I jumped at sudden sounds. "Maya, what's wrong?" she asked on the fifth night, looking up from her calculus homework. "And don't say nothing. You've been weird all week." "Just tired." I forced a smile. "Double shifts. You know how it is." "You're lying." She set down her pencil, those sharp brown eyes studying me with an intensity that reminded me painfully of our mother. "Is it money? Are we behind on rent again? I can get a job, no?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "Absolutely not. You focus on school." "We're fine." "We're not fine. You work yourself to death and barely sleep, and now something's happened that you won't tell me about." Her voice cracked. "I'm not a child anymore, Maya. Let me help." I crossed the small living room and pulled her into a hug, pressing my face against her hair. She smelled like the strawberry shampoo she'd used since childhood, a scent that always grounded me. "I promise you," I said quietly, "everything is okay. I just had a rough week at work. It'll pass." She didn't believe me. I could feel it in the tension of her shoulders. But she let it go, returning to her homework with a final suspicious glance. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat by the window and stared at my phone. The tracking app was invisible, buried somewhere in the code where I couldn't find or remove it. But I knew it was there, feeding my every movement to a man whose real name I still didn't know. I'd tried searching for him, of course. Spent hours in the college library, using computers that weren't linked to my identity, looking up luxury hotel guests and Russian businessmen and organized crime figures. I found nothing. Whoever he was, he existed in shadows that Google couldn't penetrate. Day 10 brought an unexpected development. I was finishing my shift at the Empress, pushing my cart toward the service elevator, when Mrs. Okonkwo intercepted me. "Chin." A word. My heart stopped. Had he complained? Had security reviewed footage and seen something suspicious? "Yes, ma'am. The penthouse guest has made a special request." Her expression gave nothing away. "He's asked that you be assigned exclusively to his suite for the remainder of his stay." The world tilted slightly. "I'm sorry. Apparently you did exemplary work last week." He was very specific that he wants no one else servicing his rooms. Mrs. Okonkwo raised an eyebrow. "Is there a problem?" "Yes. A massive, terrifying problem." "No, ma'am. I'd be happy to accommodate the guest." "Good. Starting tomorrow, the penthouse is your only assignment. Same hours, but the pay grade increases to VIP service rates." She allowed herself a rare smile. "Well done, Chin. Whatever you did, the guest is clearly pleased." Pleased. Right. I made it to the locker room before my legs gave out. Sinking onto a bench, I pressed my hands against my face and tried to slow my racing heart. This wasn't surveillance anymore. This was something else. He was drawing me closer, keeping me within reach for reasons I couldn't fathom. The smart thing to do would be to refuse. To quit, to run, to grab Lily and disappear into the vastness of America. But where would we go? With what money? And how long before his people found us? No. Running wasn't an option. The only path forward was through. Tomorrow I would face him again. And this time I would get answers. The penthouse looked different in morning light, softer somehow. Less like a crime scene and more like what it actually was, an obscenely expensive hotel suite with a view that most people only dreamed of. I knocked, announced myself, and entered with my cart, half expecting to find the room empty. He was there, sitting at the dining table with a laptop and a cup of coffee, dressed in a simple black t-shirt that did nothing to hide the lean muscle beneath. Without the suit, he looked younger. more human, though those pale eyes remained just as unsettling when they lifted to meet mine. Maya. He said my name like we were old acquaintances. Come in. Close the door. I obeyed, my heart hammering despite my attempts at calm. You requested me specifically, I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. Why? Efficiency. I know you can be trusted to be discreet. Why train someone new? That's not the real reason. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or amusement. No? What do you think the real reason is? I think you're testing me. Seeing if I'll break under pressure. If I'll try to run or go to the police or do something stupid. And will you? No. I met his gaze directly. I'm going to do my job, finish these 30 days, and go back to my life. That's it. He studied me for a long moment. You're braver than you look. I'm not brave. I'm practical. I have a sister who depends on me. I can't afford to be scared. Everyone can afford fear. It's how you respond to it that matters. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Have coffee with me. I'm supposed to be cleaning. The room is already clean. I have staff of my own who tend to things overnight. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. Your presence here is a formality. A cover story for anyone watching. A cover story for what? Sit, Maya. And I'll explain. Against every instinct, I sat. He poured coffee from a silver pot into a delicate china cup and pushed it toward me. The aroma was rich and complex, nothing like the instant stuff I drank at home. My name is Nikolai, he said. Nikolai Volkov. You've been trying to research me, I know. You won't find anything. I've spent a great deal of money ensuring that my digital footprint is non-existent. Volkov's. I recognized the name from news reports, always mentioned in connection with organized crime but never proven. Yes. Whatever you've heard, assume it's true. And assume the reality is worse. He sipped his coffee, watching me over the rim. I tell you this not to frighten you, but because the situation has changed. You're no longer simply a witness who stumbled into something unfortunate. Then what am I? That depends on how the next few weeks unfold. He set down his cup. I have enemies, Maya. Powerful ones. They've been circling for months, looking for weaknesses to exploit. And then you appeared, a beautiful young woman emerging from my suite at odd hours, clearly emotional, clearly hiding something. My blood ran cold. They think I'm important to you. They think you might be. Which, in their minds, makes you a potential target. His expression hardened. I've been monitoring their communications. Your name has already come up twice. Oh God. Coffee cup trembled in my hands. Lily. If they find out about Lily, they won't. Not if you follow my instructions precisely. He leaned forward. For the next 3 weeks, you will continue coming here daily. To anyone watching, you will appear to be exactly what they suspect, a woman of significance in my life. In reality, you will be under the protection of my organization. Protection? You're the reason I need protection in the first place. Yes, he didn't flinch from the accusation. And I take responsibility for that. Which is why I'm offering you a choice I don't normally offer. What choice? Work for me. Genuinely. Not as a cleaner, but as someone inside my operation. The pay would be substantial enough to cover Lily's college tuition 3 times over. You would have security, resources, a future beyond scrubbing toilets for wealthy strangers. You want me to become a criminal. I want you to become protected. There's a difference. I stared at him, trying to find the trap. And if I refuse? Then I do my best to shield you from a distance, but I make no guarantees. My enemies are ruthless, and an unaffiliated bystander is easier to harm than someone officially under my wing. It wasn't a choice. Just like the first time, it wasn't really a choice at all. What would I have to do? Initially? Exactly what you're doing now. Come here, maintain the cover story, learn. Eventually, as trust develops, other responsibilities might emerge. But nothing that would put your nursing career at risk. Nothing that would harm your sister's future. Why do you care about my sister's future? Questions seemed to catch him off guard. He was silent for a long moment, his pale eyes distant. I had a sister once, he finally said. Younger than me, like Lily is to you. She was brilliant. Could have been anything she wanted. His jaw tightened. She died because I wasn't powerful enough to protect her. I won't make that mistake again. The raw honesty in his voice stunned me. This man, this criminal, this monster by all accounts carried the same wound I did. The terror of failing someone who depended on you. I'm sorry, I said quietly. About your sister. Her name was Katya. He spoke the name like a prayer. She would have been 28 this year. Silence stretched between us, heavy with shared grief. Outside, the city hummed its endless song, indifferent to the small tragedies playing out in its towers and tenements. "'Kay," I said finally. "I'll do it. I'll work for you. You understand what you're agreeing to. I understand that I'm out of better options." I met his eyes. "But I have conditions." His eyebrow rose. "Conditions? Lily stays out of this completely. She never learns what I'm doing or who I'm doing it for. As far as she knows, I got a promotion at the hotel." Agreed. "I won't hurt anyone. I won't carry drugs or weapons or do anything that could put me in prison." Also agreed. "And when this is over, when your enemies are dealt with and I'm no longer useful, you let me walk away. Cleanly. Completely." He considered this for a moment. "That may prove difficult." "Why?" "Because in my experience, once someone enters this world, leaving it is rarely simple." He paused, something shifting in his expression. "But I give you my word. When the time comes, if you still want to leave, I won't stop you." I extended my hand. "Then we have a deal." He looked at my hand, then at my face, something unreadable in his pale eyes. Then he took it, his grip warm and firm around my fingers. "We have a deal, Maya-chan." Touch lasted a moment longer than necessary. When he released me, my skin tingled where his fingers had been. "Now," he said, his businesslike demeanor returning, "let me explain exactly what you've gotten yourself into." The next 2 hours were an education in a world I'd only glimpsed in movies. Nikolai Volkov controlled a significant portion of the East Coast's underground economy. Gambling, money laundering, protection services. His organization numbered in the hundreds, with legitimate business fronts ranging from restaurants to shipping companies. His enemies, the Petrov family, were trying to muscle in on his territory. Viktor Petrov, the patriarch, had been waging a quiet war for years, picking off Nikolai's operations piece by piece. The gun I'd found was evidence of an assassination attempt that Nikolai had narrowly survived the week before. "They're getting bolder," he explained, spreading photographs across the table. "This is Victor. These are his sons, Dmitri and Ivan. Memorize their faces. If you ever see them near your home or your sister's school, you contact me immediately." I studied the photos, committing the hard Slavic features to memory. "Have they killed people?" "Many." Nikolai's voice was flat. "Including Katya." I looked up sharply. "Your sister? The Petrovs killed her?" Viktor Petrov ordered the hit personally. She was 22. Collateral damage in a dispute over territory. His eyes had gone cold, colder than I'd ever seen them. I'd been waiting 15 years for the right moment to repay that debt. And now pieces are finally falling into place. Victor is overextended, his sons are incompetent, and his allies are questioning his judgment. A predatory smile crossed his face. Within a few months, the Petrov family will cease to exist. And my sister will finally have justice. Casual mention of destroying an entire family should have horrified me. Instead, I found myself thinking about Lily. About what I would do to anyone who hurt her. Maybe Nikolai and I weren't so different after all. What do you need me to do? I asked. For now? Learn. Watch. Be visible enough that the Petrovs believe you matter to me. He gathered the photographs. As trust develops, more significant responsibilities will follow. What kind of responsibilities? We'll discuss that when the time comes. He stood, signaling the end of our meeting. Return tomorrow at the same time. And Maya? Yes. The tracking app on your phone. I've disabled it. Something almost warm flickered in his pale eyes. You've earned that much trust. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Then I gathered my cleaning cart and left the penthouse, my mind reeling with everything I'd learned. I'd come here expecting answers. Instead, I'd found myself pulled deeper into a world I didn't understand, bound to a man whose motives I couldn't fathom. But as the elevator descended toward the lobby, one thought kept repeating in my mind: he trusted me. Despite everything, despite who he was and what I knew, he'd chosen to trust me, and somehow, against all reason, I found myself wanting to be worthy of that trust. 3 weeks into my new arrangement, I developed a routine mornings with Nikolai, learning the intricacies of his operation over coffee and confidential documents. Afternoons at the hotel, maintaining my cover as an ordinary housekeeper. Evenings with Lily, helping with homework and pretending my world hadn't been turned inside out. IT was exhausting. It was terrifying that IT was also unexpectedly exhilarating. Nikolai was a patient teacher, explaining the complex web of businesses and relationships that comprised his empire with the same precision he applied to everything. I learned to read financial statements that hid money trails, to recognize the signs of police surveillance, to understand the delicate politics that kept rival factions from open warfare. You're a quick study, he observed one morning, watching me trace a money laundering scheme through 3 shell companies. Most people take months to grasp these concepts. I'm motivated. I didn't look up from the documents. The faster I learn, the faster this ends. Is that what you want? For it to end? Question made me pause. Did I? The money Nikolai paid me had already transformed our lives. Lily's college fund was growing. Our refrigerator was full. For the first time in years, I wasn't counting every penny. I want my sister safe, I said finally. Everything else is secondary. A practical answer. He leaned back in his chair. But not a complete one. Before I could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and something in his expression shifted. Hardened. We need to move. What? Why? Alexei's team spotted Dmitry Petrov in the lobby. He's asking questions about the penthouse guests' cleaning schedule. My blood turned to ice. He's looking for me. He's fishing. But we won't give him anything to catch. Nikolai was already moving, gathering essentials with practiced efficiency. There's a service elevator that bypasses the main floors. We'll use that. And go where? Somewhere safe. He paused at the door, looking back at me with an intensity that stole my breath. Do you trust me? I shouldn't have. Every rational part of my brain screamed that trusting a man like Nikolai Volkov was insanity. Yes, I said anyway. Something flickered in his pale eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or something warmer. Then stay close. We moved through the hotel's service corridors, a maze of bare concrete and fluorescent lighting that existed beneath the gilded surface. Nikolai walked with purpose, one hand hovering near the small of my back, guiding me through turns and doorways. A black SUV waited in the underground parking garage, engine running. Alexei stood beside it, his massive frame somehow reassuring despite the gun visible beneath his jacket. Boss. He nodded at Nikolai, then at me. Ma'am. Any movement? Dimitri's still in the lobby. His men are covering the main exits. Alexei opened the rear door. We're clear through the service tunnel. Nikolai helped me into the vehicle, his hand lingering on my elbow. Alexei, make sure her sister gets home safely. I want eyes on her until further notice. Already done. I have 2 men at her school. Confirmation should have alarmed me. Instead, it loosened something tight in my chest. Thank you, I whispered. Nikolai climbed in beside me, and the SUV pulled out, navigating through the underground tunnel before emerging onto a side street blocks from the hotel. I watched the familiar Manhattan skyline slide past, wondering if I'd ever feel safe again. Where are we going? I asked. A property I keep for situations like this. It's secure, off the grid, known only to my most trusted people. He glanced at me. You'll need to stay there for a few days. Until we determine how much the Petrovs know. What about Lily? My classes? Lily will be told you're on a business trip. Your professors will receive medical documentation excusing your absence. He anticipated my next question. All arranged. All believable. You think of everything. I've had years of practice. His voice softened slightly. I know this isn't the life you chose, Maya. But I promise you I will do everything in my power to ensure you and your sister survive it. Why? Question that had been burning in me for weeks finally escaped. Why do you care so much? I'm nobody. A hotel maid who stumbled into your business. Nikolai was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the gray March sky. The night we met, he said finally. When you were sitting in that chair, terrified but trying so hard to be brave, you reminded me of someone. Your sister. No. Me. He turned to face me, and I saw something raw beneath his controlled exterior. 30 years ago, I was the one sitting in fear, wondering if I would survive the night. A child in a world of monsters, with no one to protect me. What happened? A man took a chance on me. Saw something worth saving in a street kid with nothing but rage and desperation. His jaw tightened. He's dead now, killed by the same people who murdered Katya. But I've never forgotten what he gave me. And you see the same thing in me? Something worth saving. I see someone who would sacrifice everything for her family, who faces impossible odds without breaking, who deserves far better than the hand she's been dealt. His eyes held mine. Yes, Maya. I see something worth saving. The confession hung between us, heavy with implications neither of us was ready to examine. We're here, Alexei announced, breaking the moment that I looked out the window to find we'd stopped before a warehouse in what appeared to be an industrial district. Anonymous. Forgettable. The perfect place to disappear. Inside, however, was a different story. The warehouse had been converted into living quarters that rivaled the hotel penthouse. Modern furniture, a full kitchen, a bedroom visible through an open doorway. Everything clean and functional but designed for extended stays. Make yourself comfortable, Nikolai said. Kitchen is stocked. There's a laptop with secure internet access on the desk. My people will check in regularly. You're not staying. Something flickered across his face. I have business to attend to. The Petrovs' interest in you suggests they're preparing to make a move. I need to be visible to draw their attention away from this location. You're using yourself as a decoy. I'm doing what's necessary. He moved toward the door, then paused. Maya, whatever happens, don't leave this building. Don't contact anyone except through the secure channels I've provided. And don't trust anyone. I know. I managed a weak smile. I've been paying attention. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. I know you have. Then he was gone, and I was alone in a warehouse safe house, wondering how my life had spiraled so completely beyond my control. The first day passed slowly. I explored the space, familiarizing myself with exits and supplies. I caught up on coursework using the encrypted laptop. I stared at the walls and tried not to imagine all the ways things could go wrong. The second day was worse. By the third, I was climbing the walls with restless energy. When the door finally opened, I nearly collapsed with relief, but it wasn't Nikolai who entered, it was Alexei, his usually impassive face creased with worry. What's wrong? I was on my feet instantly. Is it Lily? Is she? Your sister is fine. He held up a calming hand. But we have a situation. The boss needs you. Needs me for what? There's been a development. A meeting with the Petrovs. Victor wants to negotiate. Alexei's expression darkened. He's demanded that Nikolai bring his new woman as proof of good faith. His new woman? You mean me? Petrovs believe you're Nikolai's weakness. Victor wants to see you in person to confirm you exist, to understand how best to use you against him. My stomach dropped. And Nikolai agreed to this? He refused initially. Violently. Something like respect entered Alexei's voice. But Victor has leverage. He's taken one of our men hostage. A young guy named Pavel. Good kid. He'll be killed if Nikolai doesn't comply. So I'm being traded for a hostage. You're being asked to play a role. To appear confident and unafraid. To convince Victor that threatening you would be unwise. Alexei met my eyes. The boss wanted me to make clear that you have a choice. You can refuse and we'll find another way. But Pavel's time is running out. A choice. There was that word again. As if any of the options before me were truly choices. When is the meeting? Tonight. 10 o'clock. A restaurant in Brighton Beach. Alexei reached into his jacket and produced a garment bag. There's a dress. And the boss wanted you to have this. He handed me a small velvet box. Inside, nestled against black silk, was a pendant. A delicate silver chain holding a single sapphire surrounded by diamonds. It was his mother's, Alexei said quietly. He's never given it to anyone. I stared at the necklace, my throat tight with emotions I couldn't name. Tell him I'll do it, I said. I'll come to the meeting. The restaurant was called Troika, and it looked like something transported directly from Soviet-era Moscow. Red velvet, gold trim, photographs of stern-faced men on the walls. The kind of place where deals were made and broken over vodka and caviar. Nikolai had arrived at the safe house an hour before the meeting, his expression grim but his touch gentle as he fastened his mother's necklace around my throat. You don't have to do this, he said for the third time. Yes, I do. I met his eyes in the mirror. Pavel is innocent. He doesn't deserve to die because of me. Nothing about this is because of you. Isn't it? I turned to face him. The Petrovs are using me to hurt you. If I wasn't in the picture, then they'd find another lever. Another weakness. His hands came up to cup my face, surprising us both. You are not a weakness, Maya. You're something else entirely. What? He didn't answer. Just stared at me with those pale eyes, some internal battle playing out behind his carefully controlled features. We should go, he finally said, releasing me. Victor doesn't like to be kept waiting. The restaurant's private dining room was already occupied when we arrived. Victor Petrov sat at the head of a long table, flanked by his sons Dmitry and Ivan. Other men lined the walls, hands near weapons, eyes tracking our every movement. Victor was smaller than I expected. Gray-haired and wiry, with a face like a weathered hatchet. But his eyes were sharp, taking my measure with the practiced assessment of a predator. So, he said, his accent thick and gravelly, this is the little cleaner who has captured Nikolai Volkov's attention. Miss Chen is under my protection, Nikolai replied, his voice cold as Arctic ice. As are all members of my organization. Protection. Victor smiled, showing too many teeth. Is that what you call it? From where I sit, it looks like something more personal. His eyes dropped to the pendant at my throat, and I saw recognition flash across his face. He knew what it meant. What it signified. You gave her a Katerina's necklace. Victor's smile widened. Interesting. Nikolai's hand found mine under the table, squeezing in warning. You wanted to meet her. You've met her. And now release Pavel and we can discuss business like civilized men. Civilized? Victor laughed. There's nothing civilized about our business, Nikolai. Your father knew that. Your mother learned it the hard way. The mention of his parents made Nikolai stiffen, but his expression remained neutral. Pavel? Now. Victor studied us for a long moment. Then he nodded to one of his men, who disappeared through a side door. A minute later, Pavel stumbled into the room. Young, early 20s, with a bloody lip and haunted eyes. Alexei caught him, murmuring something in Russian before guiding him toward the door. Now, Victor said, his attention returning to me. Let's discuss the real reason we're here. Which is the future of our organizations. Victor steepled his fingers. I'm an old man, Nikolai. My sons are ambitious but lack vision. I've watched you build an empire over the past decade, and I've grown tired of fighting over scraps. You're proposing an alliance. I'm proposing a merger. Your operation and mine united under shared leadership. Dmitri would marry someone suitable to cement the bond. His eyes slid to me. Someone like your lovely companion. The suggestion hit me like a physical blow. Beside me, Nikolai had gone completely still. Maya is not a bargaining chip. Everyone is a bargaining chip in our world. Surely you know that by now. Victor leaned forward. Think about it. An end to hostilities. No more bloodshed. All it would cost is one woman. The answer is no. You haven't even considered the answer, Nikolai repeated, each word sharp as a blade, is no. Maya Chen is mine. She will never belong to your family. And if you ever suggest trading her like property again, I will burn your empire to ashes with you inside it. The room went deadly silent. Victor's expression didn't change, but I saw something shift behind his eyes. Calculation, perhaps. Or grudging respect. So it's true, he said softly. You do love her. Nikolai didn't respond. But his grip on my hand tightened, and I felt the truth of Victor's words resonate through that single point of contact. Very well. Victor rose from the table. We'll discuss other arrangements. But remember what I said, Nikolai. In our world, love is a vulnerability. And vulnerabilities get people killed. He swept out of the room, his sons and guards following like a dark tide. We sat in silence for a long moment after they left. Then Nikolai turned to me, his pale eyes searching my face. Are you all right? I'm fine. My voice was steadier than I felt. Did you mean it? What you said? Which part? All of it. That I'm yours. That you'd burn everything for me. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. When he spoke, his voice was rough. Yes, he said simply. I meant every word. And despite everything, despite the danger and the madness of this impossible situation, I found myself believing him. The drive back from Brighton Beach was silent. Nikolai stared out the window, his jaw tight, his hands clenched on his thighs. Whatever had happened in that restaurant had cost him something. Exposed of vulnerability he'd spent years hiding. I wanted to reach for him. To offer some comfort. But I didn't know how, didn't know if he'd even accept it. When we reached the safe house, Alexei stayed with the car while Nikolai walked me inside. The door closed behind us, and suddenly we were alone in the dim warmth of the converted warehouse. You should get some rest, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Tomorrow will be complicated. Nikolai. He paused, his back still to me. What Victor said. About love being a vulnerability. I took a breath, steadying myself. Is that what I am to you? A weakness. Slowly, he turned. In the low light, his pale eyes seemed to glow with an intensity that made my heart race. You are many things, Maya Chen. He moved closer, each step deliberate. A complication. A distraction. A a factor I never planned for. He stopped inches away, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. But a weakness? No. You make me stronger. How? Because for the first time in 15 years, I have something to fight for beyond revenge. His hand rose, fingers hovering near my cheek without touching. Something to protect that isn't just business or territory or pride. Your sister's necklace. I touched the pendant at my throat. Alexei said you've never given it to anyone. Because I never found anyone worthy of it. His fingers finally made contact, tracing the line of my jaw with devastating gentleness. Until you. Nikolai, I'm nobody. A maid. A nursing student. I don't belong in your world. You're wrong. His other hand came up, cradling my face between his palms. You belong exactly where you are. Where you've always belonged, even if neither of us knew it. And where is that? With me. He kissed me before I could respond, and it wasn't gentle. Wasn't careful. It was hungry and desperate, the release of weeks of tension and denial. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I melted into him, surrendering to something I'd been fighting since the moment we met. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. Tell me to stop, he murmured. Tell me this is a mistake, and I'll walk away. I'll keep my distance. I'll be nothing but your employer. And if I don't want you to stop? His eyes searched mine, looking for doubt, for hesitation. Finding none. Then God help us both. He kissed me again, and this time there was no hesitation on either side. We stumbled toward the bedroom, shedding layers of clothing and caution along the way. When we finally fell onto the bed, skin against skin, the last walls between us crumbled. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, I traced the scars that mapped his chest. Evidence of a violent life, each one a story he'd survived. This one, I touched a puckered line below his ribs. Knife fight. I was 19. Stupid and reckless. His fingers played with my hair, lazy and content. I nearly bled out in an alley before my men found me. And this, a circular scar on his shoulder. Bullet. 6 years ago. An assassin sent by Victor. His voice hardened. The same one who killed Katya. Did you? Yes. No hesitation. No regret. I made it slow. I should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the casual admission of torture and murder. Instead, I thought about Lily. About what I would do to anyone who took her from me. I understand, I said quietly. I know you do. He shifted, pulling me closer against his chest. That's what terrifies me about you, Maya. You see the monster and don't run. Maybe because I see more than the monster. I lifted my head to meet his eyes. Maybe because the monster also reads financial reports to me over breakfast and worries about my sister's college applications and gave me his dead mother's necklace. Something cracked in his expression. That carefully maintained control finally breaking. I love you. The words emerged rough and raw, like they'd been torn from somewhere deep. I didn't want to. Didn't plan to. Love is a liability in my world, exactly what Victor said. But I look at you and I can't, he stopped, struggling. I can't imagine a future without you in it. Tears burned my eyes. Nikolai, you don't have to say it back. I know this is fast. I know I'm asking too much. I know. I love you too. The confession silenced him. He stared at me like I'd spoken in a language he didn't understand. You don't have to. I'm not saying it because I have to. I cupped his face in my hands the same way he'd held mine earlier. I'm saying it because it's true. Because somewhere between finding that gun and walking into Victor's restaurant on your arm, I fell in love with a man I should have run from. You should have, he agreed. You still could. I'd let you go. I know. That's part of why I'm staying. He kissed me again, softer this time, reverent. Like I was something precious. Something worth protecting. What happens now? I asked when we separated. Now we figure out how to end the Petrovs without starting a war that consumes us all. His expression hardened with familiar determination. And we keep you and Lily safe while we do it. How? I have a plan. It's been in motion for months, waiting for the right moment. He traced circles on my shoulder. Victor's proposal tonight told me something important. He's scared. His alliance is weakening. He's looking for an exit strategy. The merger he proposed. A desperate move from a desperate man. He knows I'm coming for him. He's trying to buy time. Nikolai's smile was predatory. He won't get it. What do you need me to do? Stay safe. Stay hidden. Let me handle the rest. Nikolai, I mean it, Maya. He propped himself up on one elbow, his pale eyes intense. What's coming will be dangerous. Violent. I need to know you're protected while I deal with Victor. And after? When it's over. After. He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his features. After, if you still want me, we build something new. Together. What kind of something? A life. A real one, not the shadow existence of safe houses and enemies. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. I've been accumulating legitimate businesses for years. When Victor is gone, I can step back from the rest. Not completely, not immediately, but eventually. You do that? Leave everything you've built? I'd do anything for you. He said it simply, without drama. A statement of fact. You and Lily. You're my family now. The word hit me like a physical force. Family. I'd been Lily's entire family for so long, carrying that weight alone. The idea of sharing it, of having someone beside me, was almost too much to process. I want that, I whispered. A life with you. A future. Then we'll have it. He kissed my forehead. I promise. Morning came too quickly that I woke to find Nikolai already dressed, speaking in rapid Russian on his phone. His expression was grim, whatever news he'd received clearly unwelcome. What's wrong? I asked when he ended the call. Victor's making moves faster than expected. He's called a meeting of the other families for tomorrow night. He's going to demand they support his war against me. Will they? Some might. I've spent years building alliances, but Victor has leverage on several key players. He ran a hand through his hair. I need to attend. To make my case before he poisons them against me. Is that safe? No. But staying away is worse. He crossed to the bed, sitting beside me. I'll be gone most of the day preparing. Alexei will stay with you. And Maya. He took my hand. Whatever happens, remember what I said last night. I love you. Nothing changes that. You're scaring me. I don't mean to. He exhaled. I've never had anything to lose before. Not since Katya. It makes me cautious in ways I've never been. I pulled him down for a kiss, trying to pour everything I felt into the contact. Come back to me. Promise. I promise. He left, and I spent the day in restless anxiety. Alexei tried to distract me with card games and stories about Nikolai as a young man. I learned about his rise through the ranks, his legendary temper, his unexpected kindness to those under his protection. He's different with you, Alexei observed over a game of gin rummy. Softer. More human. Is that a bad thing? For a man in his position? Usually, yes. The giant Russian considered his cards. But maybe not. Maybe it's time for him to be more than just a boss. To have something beyond the business. You really care about him. He saved my life when I was 16. Gave me a purpose when I had nothing. Alexei met my eyes. I'd die for him without hesitation. And I'd kill for anyone who hurts you because hurting you would destroy him. casual mention of violence should have disturbed me. Instead, I felt oddly comforted. I won't hurt him. I know. Alexei smiled, a rare expression that transformed his harsh features. That's why I'm telling you this. Nikolai returned near midnight, exhausted but alive. He gathered me in his arms the moment he walked through the door, holding me like he'd been afraid he'd never see me again. What happened? It's done. The families have agreed to remain neutral while I deal with Victor. He pulled back, a fierce satisfaction in his eyes. Without their support, he's vulnerable. Isolated. So what's next? Tomorrow I move against him directly. End this war once and for all. Is it dangerous? Yes. He didn't lie to me. Never had. But I've planned for every contingency. And I have more motivation than ever to survive. He made love to me that night with a desperation that bordered on worship. Like he was memorizing every curve, every sound, every moment. Like it might be his last chance. When we finally lay still, hearts pounding in unison, he spoke into the darkness. If something happens to me tomorrow, don't. Maya, listen. He pulled me closer. If something happens, Alexei has instructions. You and Lily will be taken care of. Money, protection, everything you need. I don't want money. I want you. And I want to grow old with you. To watch Lily graduate. To have children of our own someday. His voice cracked. I want a lifetime, Maya. But in my world, lifetimes aren't guaranteed. So I need you to promise me something. What? If I don't come back, move on. Live your life. Don't waste it mourning a dead criminal. Nikolai, promise me. I couldn't speak through the tears clogging my throat. But I nodded, and he seemed to accept that as enough. We lay there in the darkness, wrapped around each other, neither of us sleeping. Both of us praying for a tomorrow that might never come. Dawn. He kissed me one last time and walked out the door, and I waited, the longest wait of my life. The hours crawled by like years. I paced the safe house until my feet ached, then sat and stared at walls until the silence drove me to pace again. Alexei tried to reassure me, but even his stoic presence couldn't ease the knot of terror in my chest. Every minute without news was agony. Every ring of Alexei's phone made my heart stop, only to restart with painful force when he shook his head at my questioning look. By noon, I'd convinced myself Nikolai was dead. By 3, I'd talked myself back from the edge. By 6, when the sun began its descent toward the horizon, I was numb. Hollow. Existing in a space between hope and despair where neither could quite reach me. That's when Alexei's phone finally rang with news that mattered. I watched his face as he listened, searching for any sign of what he was hearing. His expression remained impassive, but something shifted in his eyes. Something that looked almost like relief. Understood, he said finally. We're on our way. He ended the call and turned to me. It's over. Victor is dead. Nikolai is alive. The words didn't register at first. Couldn't penetrate the fog of fear that had wrapped around my brain. Alive, I repeated stupidly. Alive and asking for you. A rare smile crossed Alexei's face. Come. I'll take you to him. The building was a warehouse on the Brooklyn waterfront, surrounded by black SUVs and armed men. Alexei guided me through the chaos, past medics treating wounded soldiers, past body bags that I forced myself not to look at too closely. Nikolai was in a makeshift command center on the second floor. He stood with his back to the door, speaking to a group of men I didn't recognize. His shirt was torn, his knuckles bloody, a fresh cut above his eyebrow seeping crimson down his temple, but he was alive. Breathing. Standing. Nikolai. He turned at my voice, and the relief that flooded his face made my knees weak. In 3 strides he was across the room, sweeping me into his arms so tightly I could barely breathe. Maya. My name was a prayer on his lips. You're here. You're safe. I'm safe. I pulled back to look at him, my hands immediately finding the cut on his face. You're the one who's bleeding. It's nothing. The scratch. He caught my hands, pressing kisses to my palms. Victor is dead. His sons are dead. Their entire operation is being dismantled as we speak. How? It doesn't matter how. His eyes held mine. What matters is that it's over. The war is finished. You're safe. Lily is safe. And you. I'm still here. He smiled, and despite the blood and the chaos surrounding us, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I promised I'd come back to you. I kissed him then, not caring about the audience or the blood or any of it. Just needing to feel him to confirm that this wasn't a dream, that he was really alive. When we separated, Alexei was discreetly looking elsewhere, and several of Nikolai's men were failing to hide their smiles. "We should get you cleaned up," I said, suddenly aware of how battered he looked. "You need medical attention. Later. Right now, I need to show you something." He took my hand and led me to a window overlooking the water. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that seemed impossible given the violence of the day. "When I was fighting today," he said quietly, "when Victor had a gun to my head and I thought I was going to die, do you know what I was thinking about?" "What?" "You. Making breakfast in my kitchen. Lily sitting at my table doing homework while you helped her with chemistry problems. A life so ordinary and so extraordinary that it took my breath away." He turned to face me. "I've spent my entire adult life building an empire of shadows. But in that moment, all I wanted was the light. Your light. Nikolai, I'm done, Maya." The words came out with quiet intensity. Done with the violence. Done with the killing. Done with all of it. I have people who can handle operations. I don't need to be in the field anymore. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to be the man you deserve. Not a crime lord. And not a killer. He cupped my face in his hands. Just a man who loves you more than anything in this world. Tears streamed down my cheeks. You've always been that man. Even when you were terrifying me in a hotel room. Even when you were threatening my life. Some part of me knew. Knew what? That you were different. That beneath all the ice and the danger, there was someone worth loving. Kissed me again, softer this time. Tender. Marry me. The words hit me like a wave. What? Marry me, Maya. He produced a ring from his pocket. Simple, elegant, a single sapphire surrounded by diamonds that matched the necklace at my throat. I know it's fast. I know we haven't known each other long. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Nikolai, I know. He didn't pressure, didn't push. Just held the ring between us like an offering. If you need time, take it. I'll wait as long as you need. But I wanted you to know what I want. Where I see this going. I looked at the ring. The man holding it. At the future he was offering, so different from anything I'd ever imagined for myself. Yes. His eyes widened. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. I laughed through my tears. I must be insane, but yes. The ring slid onto my finger like it had always belonged there. He pulled me into his arms, lifting me off my feet, spinning me in a circle that made me dizzy and deliriously happy. "I love you," he breathed against my lips. "I love you too." Behind us, someone started clapping. Then another person joined in, and another, until the entire warehouse was applauding. I buried my face in Nikolai's chest, laughing and crying simultaneously. "Your men are watching. Let them watch." He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Let the whole world watch. I don't care. You're mine, Maya-chan. Forever." "Forever," I agreed, and meant it with every fiber of my being. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Nikolai, true to his word, began transitioning out of his more dangerous operations. Meetings were held. Deals were made. Territory was redistributed to trusted lieutenants who would handle things going forward. It wasn't a complete exit. That would have been impossible. But it was a step back, a shifting of priorities that everyone in his organization noticed and respected. For her, Alexei told someone when he thought I couldn't hear. He's doing it for her. Maybe that was true. But I preferred to think he was doing it for himself too. For the future he wanted. The life he described in that warehouse, with breakfast tables and homework help and ordinary extraordinary moments, Lily was the hardest conversation that I'd practiced a dozen times, rehearsing how to explain that I was engaged to a man she'd never met. A man who, if she ever Googled his name, would come up in connection with very scary things that in the end, I told her the truth. Not all of it. Not the guns and the violence and the months of terror. But enough. He's not a regular businessman, I said, sitting across from her in our Brooklyn apartment. He has a complicated past. But he loves me and he wants to take care of both of us. Is he dangerous? Lily asked, her eyes sharp. He can be. To people who threaten the ones he loves. I reached for her hand. But never to us. Never to you. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, does he make you happy? Happier than I've ever been. Then I want to meet him. The meeting happened 2 days later, at a restaurant neutral ground that Nikolai had chosen for its quality and its discretion. I watched nervously as my sister assessed the man I was going to marry. To his credit, Nikolai was on his best behavior. Charming without being smarmy. Attentive without being overbearing. And when Lily grilled him about his intentions toward me, he answered every question with disarming honesty. I love your sister, he told her. I plan to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of her. And my college? Lily asked bluntly. Maya's been saving for years. Already paid for. Whichever school you choose, whatever you want to study. I've established a trust in your name. Lily's eyes widened. She looked at me for confirmation. It's true, I said. He did it without telling me. I found out yesterday. Why? Lily turned back to Nikolai. You don't even know me. Because you're important to Maya. And Maya is important to me. He shrugged, a gesture that somehow seemed humble on a man of his power. It's that simple. Lily studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Okay. I blinked. Just like that. He looks at you like you hung the moon, Maya. And he paid for my college without even being asked. She grinned. I've dated enough losers to know a keeper when I see one. Nikolai laughed. A real laugh, unguarded and warm, that made my heart swell. I like her, he said, squeezing my hand. She grows on you, I agreed. Hey, Lily protested, but she was smiling too. For the first time since this insane journey began, I felt something I'd almost forgotten how to feel: hope, real, tangible, lasting hope for a future that included not just survival but happiness. A family not just bound by blood but by choice. I looked at Nikolai, at the ring on my finger, at my sister's approving smile. This was my life now. Strange and unexpected and more wonderful than I ever could have imagined, all because I'd found a gun in a velvet pouch, all because a dangerous man had blocked a door and said, "Now we have a problem." Problem, it turned out, was falling in love, and that was one problem I was happy to have. 6 months later, I stood before a mirror in a room overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. The wedding dress was simple. Ivory silk that skimmed my body like water, falling to the floor in an elegant train. No beading, no lace, nothing fussy. Just clean lines and quality fabric, exactly what I'd wanted. Lily appeared behind me, her own dress a soft lavender that made her look older than her 17 years. She graduated early, her acceptance to Columbia already secured, her future stretching out before her like a golden road. You look beautiful, she said, adjusting my veil with careful fingers. So do you. I caught her hand, squeezing tight. Thank you for being here. For accepting all of this. Are you kidding? My sister is marrying a hot Russian billionaire and I'm spending summer vacation in Italy. She grinned. This is literally every romance novel I've ever read. It's not quite that simple. Nothing worth having ever is. Her expression softened. But Maya, I've never seen you this happy. Not since Mom and Dad died. You glow when you're around him. I love him. I know. And he loves you. She stepped back, admiring her work. Now stop crying or you'll ruin your makeup. I laughed, dabbing at my eyes. Bossy. Someone has to be, since you're clearly incapable of taking care of yourself anymore. A knock at the door interrupted our bickering. Mrs. Okonkwo, of all people, poked her head in. They're ready for you. I'd been shocked when Nikolai suggested inviting my former supervisor to the wedding. Even more shocked when she'd accepted. But seeing her now in an elegant navy dress, her usually stern face softened with genuine warmth, I was glad she'd come. You've done well for yourself, Chen, she said, something like maternal pride in her voice. I always knew you were destined for more than hotel rooms. Thank you, Mrs. Okonkwo. For everything. She nodded curtly, but I caught the shimmer in her eyes before she turned away. The ceremony was held in the garden of Nikolai's Italian villa, a property he'd owned for years but rarely visited. Now, transformed with flowers and fairy lights, it looked like something from a dream. 50 guests sat in white chairs facing an arch woven with roses and ivy. Alexei stood at the front as best man, his massive frame somehow appropriate beside the delicate floral arrangements. Gianna, whom I'd met during our engagement and immediately adored, waited as my maid of honor. Wait. Gianna, I blinked, realizing I was mixing up my stories. This was Nikolai's wedding, not Dante's. Alexei's wife, a petite woman named Irina whom I'd grown close to over the past months, served as my matron of honor. Beside her stood two of Nikolai's cousins who'd flown in from Moscow, women I'd only just met but who'd welcomed me like family, and at the end of the aisle, waiting beneath the arch, stood Nikolai. He wore a light gray suit that made his pale eyes seem even more striking. His usually severe expression had softened into something approaching wonder as he watched me approach. Like he couldn't quite believe this was happening. I knew the feeling. Lily walked me down the aisle, filling the role that should have belonged to our father. Her grip on my arm was steady, her chin held high, and I'd never been more proud of the woman she was becoming. When we reached the arch, she placed my hand in Nikolai's and whispered, "Take care of her." "With my life," he promised. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. We'd written our own vows, struggling for days to find words that captured what we felt without revealing too much to the civilians in attendance. "I promise to protect you," Nikolai said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Not because you're fragile, but because you're precious. I promise to be honest with you even when the truth is difficult, to stand beside you through whatever storms come. And I promise that every day for the rest of our lives I will work to be worthy of the gift you've given me." "What gift?" I asked, though it wasn't part of the script. "Your trust." He squeezed my hands. "Your heart. Your future. You gave them to a man who didn't deserve them, and I will spend the rest of my life earning them." Tears streamed down my cheeks as I began my own vows. "I promise to see you," I said. "Not the reputation or the rumors, but the man beneath. The one who reads financial reports over breakfast and worries about my sister's education and gave me his mother's necklace before he even knew my last name." A ripple of confusion passed through the guests who didn't know our real story, but Nikolai's eyes glistened with understanding. "I promise to be your partner in everything. Your sanctuary when the world is too much. Your strength when you forget your own." I lifted our joined hands. "And I promise that finding that gun was the best accident of my life." He laughed, a sound of pure joy that made my heart soar. "In that case," he said, breaking script entirely, "I promise to leave more guns lying around." The guests laughed, not understanding the joke but charmed by our obvious happiness. "By the power vested in me," the officiant continued, clearly amused, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Nikolai didn't need to be told twice. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me like we were alone in the world. Like there weren't 50 people watching and applauding. Like nothing existed except the two of us and the love that had grown from the strangest possible beginning. When we finally separated, both breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "Hello, wife. Hello, husband. Ready for the rest of our lives? I looked at him. The man who'd terrified me, protected me, loved me. At the future stretching out before us, uncertain but bright. Ready, I said, and meant it. The reception lasted well into the night. There was dancing and champagne and more food than I'd ever seen in one place. Alexei gave a toast that managed to be both touching and terrifying, referencing incidents I probably didn't want to know about. Lily gave one that made everyone cry, including Nikolai, though he'd deny it later as the evening wound down. I found myself on the terrace, looking out at the moonlit sea. Nikolai appeared beside me, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Escaping your own party?" he asked, offering me a glass. "Just taking a moment." I leaned against him as his arm wrapped around my waist. "It's a lot to take in." "Having second thoughts?" "Never." I tilted my head to look at him. "You?" "Only about not finding you sooner." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "I wasted 35 years not knowing you existed. You wouldn't have liked me before. I was boring, responsible, completely ordinary." "You were never ordinary, Maya." His eyes held mine. "You were just waiting for the right circumstances to reveal you're extraordinary. Finding a gun in a hotel room is an interesting circumstance. It certainly made an impression." We laughed together, the sound carrying across the dark water. "What happens now?" I asked. "When we go back to New York?" "Now we build our life. You finish your nursing degree. I finish transitioning the business. We find a home that's ours, not just mine." He paused. "And someday, when you're ready, we talk about a family. Children. You want them." "I never thought I would, but with you." His voice softened. "I can picture it. Little girls with your eyes. Boys with your stubbornness." "My stubbornness?" "It's one of your most attractive qualities." I swatted his arm, but I was smiling. "Children sound nice. Someday." "Someday," he agreed. "No rush. We have time." Time. Such a simple word for something so precious. A year ago, I'd been counting hours until my next shift, minutes until I could afford rent. Now, time stretched before me like an endless gift, filled with possibilities I'd never dared to imagine. "I love you, Nikolai Volkov." "I love you, Maya Volkov." He paused, testing the name. "That sounds right." "It does." He kissed me again as the moon rose over the Mediterranean, sealing a future neither of us had planned but both of us wanted. 1 year later, I walked across the stage at Hunter College to receive my nursing degree. Nikolai was in the front row, applauding louder than anyone. Beside him sat Lily, now a sophomore at Columbia, her pre-med studies going brilliantly. Alexei and Irina sat nearby, their newborn daughter sleeping peacefully in her carrier. After the ceremony, we gathered for photos. The former hotel maid in her graduation gown, the Russian crime lord in his designer suit, the sister who'd grown from dependent to equal, the friends who'd become family. "Proud of you," Nikolai murmured, pulling me close for a private photo. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. You would have found a way." He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "That's who you are, Maya. A survivor. A fighter. Maybe. But it's nicer having someone to fight beside. Always." That night, in the brownstone we'd purchased in Brooklyn, close enough to my old neighborhood that I could visit Mrs. Patterson whenever I wanted, Nikolai presented me with a gift. "For passing your boards," he said, handing me a small envelope. Inside were 2 plane tickets to Tokyo. First class, open-ended. "You mentioned once that your mother always wanted to visit Japan," he explained. "I thought we could go together. Make it a second honeymoon." Tears pricked my eyes. "You remembered that?" "I remember everything you tell me." He pulled me close. "Every dream, every hope, every throwaway comment about places you'd like to see. That's a lot to remember." "I have good motivation." I kissed him, tasting champagne and promise. "Thank you." For this. For everything. Thank me by being happy, he said. That's all I ever want. I am happy. I pulled back to look at him, this man who transformed my life so completely. Happier than I ever knew I could be. Good. He smiled, that rare, genuine expression that still made my heart flutter. So am I. 5 years later, I sat in a rocking chair by the window of our Brooklyn home, a sleeping baby in my arms. Katya May Volkov, named for the sister Nikolai had lost and the heritage I'd inherited, was 3 months old. She had her father's pale eyes and my dark hair, and she'd already wrapped every adult in her life around her tiny fingers. Nikolai appeared in the doorway, still in his business suit from a meeting downtown. His organization was almost entirely legitimate now, the last shadows of his criminal past fading into memory. He consulted for security firms, invested in real estate, sat on the boards of charitable foundations. He was still dangerous. Would always be dangerous. But the danger was contained now, directed toward protecting rather than destroying. How is she? He asked, crossing to stand beside my chair. Perfect. Just like her father. Her father is far from perfect. But he was smiling as he said it, reaching down to stroke Katya's cheek with one gentle finger. She has your nose. And your stubbornness. I thought that was your quality. It's shared. He laughed softly, mindful of the sleeping baby. Lily called. She's bringing her boyfriend to dinner tomorrow. The medical student? Things must be serious. She mentioned something about him meeting the family. Nikolai's eyes glittered with amusement. Should I clean my guns first? Absolutely not. Just one? For effect. Nikolai. Fine. He sighed dramatically. I'll be civil. For Lily. I smiled, imagining the scene. Poor boyfriend, facing the combined scrutiny of a former mafia boss and 2 women who'd learned to be formidable in their own right. He'll survive, I said. If he's worthy of her. And if he's not, then Lily will handle it herself. She doesn't need us to fight her battles. No, Nikolai agreed, pride evident in his voice. She doesn't. We sat in comfortable silence, watching our daughter sleep. Outside, the Brooklyn street bustled with ordinary life. Neighbors walking dogs. Children playing. A world that had no idea about the extraordinary story that had unfolded behind these brownstone walls. Any regrets? Nikolai asked, echoing a question from years ago. None. I reached for his hand. You? Only that I wasted 35 years before finding you. He lifted my hand to his lips. But we're making up for lost time. We have plenty of time left. And I intend to make every moment count. He kissed me, soft and sweet, a promise renewed. In my arms. Katya stirred but didn't wake. Her father's hand remained wrapped around mine. And through the window, the sun began its descent toward the Manhattan skyline, painting the city in shades of gold. I thought about the girl I'd been. The one who cleaned hotel rooms and dreamed of something more. The one who found a gun in a velvet pouch and had her life turned upside down by a man with ice-cold eyes and a wounded heart. That girl could never have imagined this. Could never have believed that terror would transform into love, that danger would become safety, that a chance encounter would lead to forever. But here I was. Maya Volkov. Nurse. Wife. Mother. Home. He had started with a gun and a threat and a door blocked by a dangerous, and he had ended here, in a rocking chair, with everything I'd ever wanted held safely in my arms. And as Nikolai settled into the chair beside me, his hand finding mine in the fading light, I knew that this wasn't really an ending at all. That it was the beginning of everything that mattered. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. If you enjoyed